Well, g'day, boys. Here we are. We're all back in our respective homes. Only just about 48 hours ago, we were just slapping high fives at the Tour de France. At the end of the Tour de France in Nice, welcoming, of course, Luke Durbridge from Jayco Alula and Tom Southam from Easypost. Boys, we're back from the tour. Southam, Durbo.
Good to be back with the guys. It's like we're all seeing each other at the tour, but I mean, I don't know about you, but we got all about 5 minutes to catch up in the end.
To be fair though, at least you turned up with your wallet when I was having a beer, Durbo, in the Alps there on stage 4 or 5 or whatever it was. You did come to pay for the beer.
Did you shout him a beer?
I did offer.
He offered, but I was already 6 or 7 deep, so I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it, mate."
Yeah, you were sitting outside the food truck sinking a lefer, and I was like, "Well, you probably don't need any."
Did you just go, just give me the cash?
Yeah.
Yeah. I only had cards, so Tom just put out his Apple Watch. I just tapped his wrist and went on his way.
You actually gave me a beer, Durbo, as well at the bus in Nice.
Yeah, I don't even know if I have the shout card, but it sounds like I'm the only one shouting.
I was supposed to be me shouting.
To be fair though, I caught sight of Mitch on the gravel stage handing up bidons to you, clearly choosing his team.
True, you did. You did shout me when I was out the arse by myself.
I was actually trying to get a start in the EF car. I got KB'd. I couldn't get in, so I went back to my old team. I thought I'd start with the team that I was most recently in and try and work back. DSM were next, but Jayco gave me a start, and Durbo. I love Durbo gave me like the token, like, mate, I don't need a bidon at 6K to go, but I can see you are so keen to give a bidon. I'll just take one and throw it up about 100 meters up the road.
That's exactly what I did. I gave it to like a kid. I took it off him, just like rode with it for like a couple of 100 meters and then threw it to a kid. And Mitch was like, yes. It was so important.
It was so funny because the guy I was traveling with one of your Belgian zone hoppers, and he was trying to explain to me why your bidons were different. They had Durbo written on the top, and he's like, yeah, Durbo, he's got the gluten disease. He's got the disease. Is diseased. And I was like, you couldn't have explained that any better. I was just laughing my ass off. I'm like, why has he got Durbo written on the bottles? He's like, because he's got the gluten disease. I'm like, what is that?
I love how my bottles are gluten free. Like, what's that even?
What is it? What?
I'm eating about 500 grams of pasta every day.
Well, then we should welcome everyone into the episode. This is the Race Communiqué, being brought to you by our major partner, MAAP, who are the partner of Life in the Peloton, but the Race Communiqué is exclusively being brought to you by our other partner, which is the Escape Collective. And we've got to talk about it, boys. That is something that we were bantering on about, is Escape Collective Fantasy League. The results are in. Boys, how did we go? It was fun talking on tour, wasn't it?
It was actually. It was quite good.
Should I go to the results? So what happened, if you're not aware, so Wade Wallace and the boys from Escape Collective said, let's get 2 teams together. The Escape Collective, who own the whole thing, supposedly got tens of thousands of members, and us, this tiny little podcast, Life from the Peloton, try and take on the big machine. All of a sudden, we're watching the numbers go up. Sign-ups. Let's just go to the most important data.
That's the key thing.
The key thing here is Escape Collective were able to get 442 members, which I was like, wow, that's quite a lot of people. Oh, Life in the Peloton, 545 members. Just, there we go. Unbelievable amount of members. Just wanted to get on board. You know, look, at the end of all that, Escape Collective walked away with 808 points. We had 799, but that doesn't even really matter. It was all about who wanted to be on whose league. Durbo actually...
It's about the quantity, not the quality. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Durbo, you actually went really well in the league. Not even in our league, in the whole league itself. Where'd you end up finishing?
42nd, so significantly higher than my GC at the tour. Actually went quite good. I was actually on for like top 20s in the overall league, and then I had a bit of a moment sort of the last week where I'd sort of used up all my good cash cows and just started to falter there. But My sister actually was 12th or 13th in the entire league. So in every league. So by the end of it, we were actually trying to help her to win the overall to get the factor, because you can win the factor bike. So I was actually walking up and down my bus going like, look, I've picked this person, but my sister's picked this person, and asking the boys. And Simon Yates is like, whoa, I don't know, man. Today I think, this guy's going well. And so then I'd send her a message and say, Emma, what do you reckon about that? And it was quite funny, but we were just all for the factor.
Is that what happened on stage 17 when Yates was up the road and he knew that your sister had picked Carapaz? That he just put the brakes on. Is that now we're getting down to the bottom of it?
Yeah.
I wonder what happened there.
I picked Carapaz. I picked Carapaz, actually. I felt bad. Yatesy was second and I actually picked Carapaz.
You sent a message straight after the stage finish going, oh yeah, great result, well done, even though Simon, you just lost the stage. He's like, that's awesome. We won the fantasy points. It's great. I have to say it was quite good fun.
These imaginary points. Like, we got heaps of prize money for winning the stage. I get imaginary points, and I'm more happy about the imaginary points than actual cash. Like, it's so stupid.
It was quite good. It was quite good fun to have it going in the mornings, though, because it was like, it was interesting. Especially, on the stages you weren't really going for, because the ones you're going for, I always had to back my riders, right? So it's like I used them, and I used them all at the wrong times during the race. So like the days, we did really well, I'd chosen the wrong person, but it was quite good to have a little bit of back and forth about what we thought was going to happen, because you get so set in your ideas. You're like, oh, this is definitely going to go this way, and then someone's like, oh, maybe this. Actually, yeah, could be right. So
yeah, but you can get so easily convinced. I always be walking around because when I was in the buses and stuff, I'd just be trying to get information. I was pretty set on someone, and then every single time, my original choice was always right. Every single time, but you would change me, Southam. You'd be like, and then in the end, I'm like, mate, you're feeding me. I thought you were just trying to feed me dummies. Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, it's back on for the Vuelta. If you do want to go across and join up for the Vuelta, we'll be doing it again. And also, Life in the Peloton listeners can get 2 months free access to the Escape Collective if you head across to theescapecollective.com/life, LITP, to get 2 months free of reading and check out what it's all about, the community, and then sign up for the next fantasy league. The Vuelta's just around the corner. I don't know if I'm quite ready for it just yet, but that will be coming up. We're going to be talking about the tour in this episode. Just before we get to the episode, though, something else has been very excitingly released, and I was able to go to their little launch party at the Brewdog Brewery in Nice there and have a few too many cold ones. I'm talking about the Zwift Ride. Zwift Ride is here to take indoor cycling to a new era. Zwift Ride is designed to be the easiest way to set up and ride indoors on Zwift. Durbo, you will know what I'm talking about. There's nothing worse than when you want to do an indoor session and you're like, oh, I got to get my road bike. I got to connect it to my smart trainer. And then by the time you do all that, you're like, I can't even be bothered. Of course, you still push through with it, but I just, go, I'm not going to do it. Well, Zwift Ride now have developed a bike, an indoor training bike, which makes it super easy. You can just leave it there set up. And the best part is it is set up by Zwift. So it's got integrated handlebars with dual controls, built-in navigating menus, all the stuff you need to do power-ups, power-downs. It is being released. They've got a few launch parties around. Like I said, I was at the one in Nice. There's one coming up in Rotterdam. So if you want to get across, check out the Zwift Ride. Or if you want to just go out and have a beer at Brewdog Brewery, go across and get a free ticket from their Eventbrite. The link will be in the show notes. It's pretty fun. The beers taste good. And plus, it's always fun jumping on a Zwift Ride, burning off that last beer and then getting yourself another cold one. They're available. The bikes are available in the US, Europe, and the UK via Zwift.com and WahooFitness.com. Should we crack into this episode, boys?
Let's do it.
Sounds good.
Well, look, there's so much to go through in this tour. I thought we'd just run through very quickly. It's too much to cover, and I know everyone was out there watching it, but it's more about our opinions on different things. I thought I'd just bring up, for me, I've sort of marked this as there was the tour of historical moments. What do you guys reckon? Firstly, Cav, takes the 35 wins. He is now the all-time record holder for stages in the Tour de France. He was the joint leader with Eddie Merckx on 34 wins since 2021. You remember that? I just actually remember hearing Michael Morkov talk about this. He's like, if Cav had just stayed in my wheel going up the Champs, he could have got this record like 3 years ago, but he decided to not stay in my wheel. I had the clear run. He's actually really dirty about it. So he's like, God damn it, I had to ride on for these next few years. And in the end, he was actually really pissed that he didn't do the final lead out when Cav took it. But that was the first sort of historical moment. Just quickly, boys, what were your thoughts on that? Finally have it done.
I mean, the thing for me was like how long, like overall, 16 years from one stage win to the other. So, I mean, like still winning stages at the Tour, when you think about how much the race has changed, how much the levels changed, it's like that is mind-blowing what he did there. And to come, I mean, you could see, you got a feel, we stayed with the hotel in Astana a couple of times, like you could just tell that was on the cards, Everything was all in for it and they were going to get it done.
I just didn't think it would, personally, I just didn't think it was like going to happen because of the distance, like you said, Tom, like 16 years, the way the sprinting level was, how hard they are to get to the sprints. Like, it's insane for it to happen, actually. Like, the chances of it happening is so low, and it did happen. It's just, it was like it was staged.
What really suits him though, or suited this happening, was the fact that the other stages are so hard. So like basically we got to the sprint stages now and we had those few days where it's like you're just rolling, right? Still going fast, but basically no one attacked. And those are the days that Cav needed to have a go. Basically not like non-pedaling days. And you could see, I think the stage he won, he was basically on the red car at 0. And who's going to attack past Cav and ruin his day? Basically no one. And then it was like he had to have like the conditions be absolutely right, and that happened because of how hard the rest of the race is. So he read it, he understood that, and made it work.
And the most impressive thing I think was for him to continually to race to the finish. Like, he got the record, and like he's retiring after the Tour. I think he's not racing again, and like not just to rack it right there and then. Like, he then persisted to make time cut by 1 minute pretty much every single mountain stage.
Yeah.
Like, the resilience is in that, just to get to Nice, just to say, I finished my last Tour, I got the stage win. Like, it was insane. Like, I saw it to Mark Renshaw at the end of the Tour, and he was just like completely wrecked. And you could just see, I'm like, mate, congrats. And he's just like, oh, like, since getting the stage win, that was sort of like the easy part. And then after everything else is the hardest part afterwards, Well, just getting Cav to finish the bike
What
race.
about stage one? I thought he was going to be out of the race stage 1. He's out the back, spewing his guts up, trying to make time cut. I was like, oh, this record's off. There's no way he's going to get it.
True, I forgot about that.
I interviewed Renshaw and he's like, nah, mate, there's nothing wrong with that. Cav just spews when he's just going. He wasn't even phased at all about that. He's like, oh, yeah, he just carries on.
Far out. I mean, there was a few days there when I think, like, you were in the group Peloton, and I had the car in your group, and I kept thinking, oh, shit, there's still 4 people behind us, and they all ride for Astana, just totally on their own, And it was like...
It was that big valley day, I think, like after the Parasword start. And there was like 60 or 70k of valley. And like 4 guys went out the hoop then on the Parasword. And the rest of our group, Petter, I think you were there too, following us, must have been 60 or 70 guys. Like, it was insane. Like, we're just all just ripping at like 50k's an hour pretty easy down the valley, like do a turn every like 20 minutes. And Cav... It's just 4 guys swapping off. Apparently, Renshaw said like he had his radio off, all his bottles off, his Garmin, no food. Like, he was like in his drops, sprinting to make time cut. Like, that's just horrific. Imagine that, just like almost doing, other than his helmet, strip down, because just to try and lighten up the load.
They did crazy things to the bike. I don't know if you saw this, but there was one day where they just stopped and changed both wheels, and everyone like in the press were like, what's going on here? Something's going on. Why would they change both wheels? He didn't have a flat. But they were running those time trial tyres. And the time trial tyres wore out. A couple of them got punctures, and they said, Cav, pull over. Let's just change your tyres before you get a puncture.
Oh, man, that's crazy. Well, another thing of that is I went over the top with them on the Tourmalet stage, and the way these boys were going downhill, like Ballerini, like it was absolutely insane. Like they would probably take minutes out of the front just going downhill. Like I was scared. Like the way desperation they go down these hills, like yeah, they can't go up them quick at all. But when they go over the top, it's just like hold on for dear life. So
were you able to hang on with them?
Yeah, I got my ego to hold on to. I'm not losing the wheel.
Speaking of sprinters, we've got to speak about Dylan Groenewegen, first Black African to win a stage. He doesn't just do that. He goes on to win the green jersey, also the first to do that for a Black African. He was, for me, there's so many things that I loved about him in the race was I sort of had him pitched as a guy who won on hard sprints, hard days, slight uphills. But he wasn't just doing that. He was winning in just like straight up flat sprints where everyone had a clean run at it. So he proved that he was the fastest. But how humble he was and how much, like I got to see it from the journalist side of things, the time that he gave and the answers he gave in his interviews were just the best. This guy was just, he's doing so much, not only for cycling in his own country, for, you know, other Black cyclists coming through, but just for cyclists in general. Like the amount of crap interviews you get, I'm just like listening to him going, finally, someone's actually speaking a bit of truth and a bit of honesty, and without sort of feeling like they have to give this sort of stereotypical sports interview. Boys, what's your opinion of him? And I guess maybe more so you, Durbo, what's he like in the race?
Oh, he's a super lovely guy. Like super lovely guy. For me, I've known Gamay. Like obviously he does all the Belgium classics, so not the first time I spoke to him, but yeah, just super humble. He's one of those guys that he moves through the bunch very well. You know, I'm not being bad, but like they haven't grown up with like massive pelotons, like Dutchies or Belgies, and like almost like an Australian who comes over and he races in his local bunch is 20 riders. So the skills that you have to maneuver in a Tour de France sprint, let alone, Gent-Wevelgem, like that shows the class of the guy to be able to like get into the World Tour, and then they have the engine, but to be able to add the skills to it, and like he's not just a climber. I'm not having a go at climbers, but like climbing, if you can get them to the bottom of the hill, they've got a massive VO2, they can ride away. They're dealing with 5 other guys. We're talking about Binny. He's actually winning Tour de France sprints, winning Belgium classics. Like that, you got to have like insane, and also the crashes that he's had as well. He had some big crashes, and he's still lining up and doing what he's done. And even he crashed in the Tour quite hard, but it was pretty special to see. And like just the way he went about it, he wasn't. There was no ego. It was just so grateful for everything he got, an opportunity, and yeah, it really does bring the sport in a big spotlight for Africa and for what he's done. So yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing.
Another amazing historical moment. First Ecuadorian, Richard Carapaz, to win a stage, yellow jersey, to wear the yellow jersey and to win the polka dot. Like, I mean, this tour, it was just producing some massive moments, historical sort of moments that could move into the future. Southam, obviously from EF, your team, this was just a great start for you guys with Richie coming in a bit of an unknown, I think, from the outside. Obviously, you guys knew, but taking him off GC, maybe going to go for stages. He just looked on it from that stage in Italy. What was the climb? He just launched up there with Evenepoel. And I was like, oh, hang on a second here.
St. Luca.
Yeah, St. Luca. Richie's actually looking good here. But he didn't just start there. He had an amazing tour. We're going to get into him later on, but just quickly, a couple words on him, Southam.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the bit, because he had, 5 days off the bike with like no bike before the tour. So it was kind of like he crashed in Swiss, and then like it was just what should we do? He naturally wants to ride GC, and there's a lot of guys who tell him not to ride GC, and then they're still a bit lost. But he came out pretty sort of not aggressively in terms of like how he wanted to perform. And stage 2, he was really good. But when he took the jersey, I mean, to do that on a flat sprint stage, he was really into the idea. And like for it to happen, you needed basically to put 16 places between him and Pogačar, and like we had this plan of like, okay, well, everyone who helps him has to basically be behind him and in front of somebody else, you know. It was quite a lot of ifs and buts, but he was fully into it. He was on the radio, pushing the guys on something that really didn't suit him, because there was like a tiny little margin of chance to take it. And I think so. Charlie spoke before the tour, like in our meeting with the riders, about going for those like 0.1% chances that you're going to get that pop up. And he embraced that and went for it, and that changed our whole race, because every single rider bought into that mindset then, as to like, if there's a little chance, because the easiest thing in those when it's really hard is just to be like, brake's gone, it's too hard to do this on this finish, you know, we're really going to get the jersey. But they went for it every time, and that changed. That yellow jersey is what made the race go for us more than anything else, you know.
From the outside, I would say that like you could see that with EF. Like there was moments when there was like, it's done, you know, like where most other teams wouldn't have, say, the balls to take it on or go after. And we were actually, EF was spoken about quite a lot within our team, because we had Simon Yates and you guys had Carapaz, and these two were probably the two best climbers in the back week in the breakaways. And we were just like, well, if as long as we tag EF, EF are going to actually, because EF are going to have the horsepower or whatever to actually close something that we may have missed. So we would actually just make sure that if EF was in it, we would close it straight away. If EF wasn't in it, then even if the break was like 20 guys, you guys would still come and close it, which is like, just shows the desperation and the success you guys had in the end. Like you hadn't got the stage win until quite late. And I was thinking like, you guys had a great tour, but you probably might not come out with the stage win. And you know that feeling, you know, you're feeling like you've done like last year we had an epic tour. We had a really good 4th on GC, but we didn't get a stage win. So you just feel like, even though we did everything right, we still didn't get that stage win. So when you guys got the stage win, it was like massive. You get yellow jersey, polka dot jersey, stage win, like couldn't have ticked any more boxes for EF. So I think it was a really great tour. So you guys did good. It was good to hear that you already spoke about it at the start. So because it actually showed in the bunch, I could see the mindset, you know, which was. But
it's cool. Also like it's like having the right people too that want to do that, I think, and we did, you know.
True.
Guys like Ben, you know, you give him even a tiny little opportunity and he's just going to have a crack at it. So it was cool. It was good.
Another historical moment was the first gravel stage ever at the tour, which produced a fantastic route and went straight past some champagne vineyards, which I happened to get dropped at and was forcibly dropped at one of the vineyards, and forcefully had to sample some of the champagne on that second gravel section. As you guys were walking up, I was just having a laugh, having a sip, which was delightful.
Oh, that second one, man. That was ridiculous.
It was the vineyard was fantastic. That's some of the nicest champagne I've drunk, especially on the roadside there. And look, I think one of the most epic sort of stories out of this is Pogačar does the double, the Tour Giro double, the first time since 1998, and only 7 riders in history have done it, for a total of 12 times. Looking back at that. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is because it could be a community quiz question later on. Durbo, you just drifted out of the room there while I was talking about the gravel. Just quick 2 words on the gravel, mate. What was it like? Was it just sort of like, you know, gravel's hot at the moment. It was just like essentially doing Unbound, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, and that's where it should stay, you know? Away, Unbound, away, whatever you want to call it. Waffle and pig and something like that, and like it was all good. Like we should have got like a Hawaiian shirt, an SLR camera, and all grew a mustache for the day. would have been so good. Get your little Girona starter pack.
Here we go.
Anyway, yeah. No, it was filthy. Didn't enjoy it. Probably because my day ended up chasing like a idiot for Simon Yates to try and get back on GC, and we never came back. So, yeah, and I probably had my worst day of the tour that day. You just wake up, you're like, are these the legs you're going to give me for a gravel stage? So I was pretty ratchet that day. So, yeah, I was coming in and lots of attitude about how it shouldn't be in the race. But from what I had heard from everyone else, you guys, Champagne, sounds like you had a great day. And everyone was just raving about the stage, how cool it was, how epic it was. And sure, that's what it is. That's the show. So I sort of calmed down after listening and hearing about how magical it was. So yeah, look, there's always been iconic, classic stages in the tours. Roubaix stage. I felt like it was the same. Like it wasn't any more special. Like it wasn't like gravel. Oh my God! It's like if you're gonna throw in a gravel or a cobble stage, pretty much you're gonna get the same result. I think. They're both as filthy as each other. So when I'd finished that gravel stage, I was like, oh, other than probably the impact of the stones, I felt the same as like a Roubaix. So, yeah, and they don't have to have it every year, which they don't. So every couple of years they throw in one of these
cobbles next year,
classic days. And probably
starts in Lille next year. I reckon you're going to get some cobbles, mate. Just a suspicion.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm so happy I did my last tour then.
Oh, we're hearing it. Oh, is he? That's it. He's coming back. Full-time employee of life on the Peloton. Love it. Great.
Yeah. No, they're starting Barcelona in 26. I'm just waiting there. Just get the sun.
What would be great? Racing along the coast towards Girona. That'd be a hell of a stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Just quickly, last couple of minutes here of my little bit. I want to run through the GC. Obviously, Pogačar won. He was just in the form of his life. Even though he completely dominated the race, this is my opinion. I felt it was so compelling to watch. He was awesome. He was a fantastic team. He held yellow from stage 4, but he also had it on stage 2. He wore the yellow jersey for a total of 19 days, won 6 stages. Vingegaard was looking confident, but he just wasn't at the level to compete with the Pog, and unfortunately, he lost his confidence, I feel. Evenepoel, he started slow, but he finished well, really strong performance. And a guy who's promised so much over the years, even though he's won the Vuelta already, I think this was one of his better looking performances, in my opinion. He looks like he's going to go on from here. Look, the green we spoke about, Dylan Groenewegen, he was the winner. And Jasper Philipsen, he started off slow, but as things got rolling, he finished well, a stronger note. He ended up winning 3 stages. The polka dot jersey was actually a really good fight this year, and it was great to not see it go to a GC rider. And I think there was a conversation that's been happening over the last few years. Is like, how do we change this? Tragically, 2022, Simon Geschke lost it to Jonas on the last day, and there was this conversation, how do we move it? How do we fix it? But this year with Richie Carapaz showed that, hey, if you're a GC quality and you ride for stages, you can actually take the polka dot jersey. He took it in epic fashion. It was actually Jonas Abrahamsen who had it for the first 10 days. Vingegaard was lent it by Pog, and then Richard Carapaz took it over in stage 19 to win it overall. The teams undoubtedly was won by UAE, who dominated the race, the strength in the high mountains, Yates, Almeida, Soler, Sivakov, and then Wellens and Niels Pollitt were awesome. I think Niels especially was...
How good was Pollitt?
Pollitt was just insane. Like,
mythical climber.
I interviewed him.
That's what we called him on the bus. We called him the mythical climber. Will come to the front and he'll just ride until there's 15 guys left. We're like, who are we talking about? We're like, Niels Pollitt, the mythical climber. And he was like this old school, like Indurain, 80 kilo man just riding the Tourmalet. Like it was incredible.
There's one thing that him and I have got in common. It's coached by the same coach, Kev Polton. Mate, Kev, what he took from me, all those sessions I couldn't complete, Pollitt.
Wow.
So I started something. Niels, he can thank me for that. for testing out all the hard sessions. Even though they lost Ayuso, they lost him on stage 13, but you wouldn't even know they were one rider down at all.
Didn't need him. Whatever.
That was funny. That was if you could be a fly on the wall between the UAE bus with the old Ayuso, that was some pretty funny things to see in the bunch. Like just Ayuso completely doing his own thing. It was an interesting one. I'd wonder how that went down, but I don't know anymore. But from the outside, it looked quite juicy.
You're going to have to elaborate on that, Turbo. You can't just leave that hanging there.
Well, in the end of the day, like Ayuso looked like from the outside was just riding for his own GC.
Well, they just took him out of the race. They gave him COVID reason to take him out. They red card him.
I saw a meme the other day, and it was just Almeida, Ayuso, Soler all standing above Adam Yates as he digs his own grave. It was right. Well, it was like Adam Yates, the only one doing his job in the mountains. So I think they were just trying to like see if this team was actually united around Poggy, and clearly they were, and everyone was sort of. I think in the first couple of stages in the heat, you know, like guys like Wellens, they really suffered and probably weren't showing, you know, what they could do, and then everyone just ate their words. By the second week, UAE was just like complete dominance. So yeah, I think they showed everyone that they were ready. But yeah, no, it was. I felt like Jonas, like you said, lost his confidence there. But I think it was almost a hard ask. It was probably he got the best result that was probably possible with the preparation time that he had. And then I also think, you know, even if he was at his best, would he have beaten Pog this year? I don't think so personally, but don't know how you boys feel about that.
I'm a Pog fan, so I'd say no.
I don't know, man. I mean, like when you think about the severities of his injuries in Basque Country, I mean that was hardcore, that crash, and to come back and to be where he is, because I think a lot changed for UAE. I think they wanted to win the Giro and avoid losing the Tour, basically. So that's why they picked the Giro and said, we're going for that. And then if we lose the Tour, it kind of doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden, when that crash happened, it was like, oh, great, here's the opportunity. But I think in a normal year, it would have been different, because they would have sent different riders to the Giro. They would have taken that more, not seriously, but they would have invested more resources into that. In the end, they put everything on the Tour because, you know, the Giro team wasn't their best team by a long way, for such a big target. So yeah, I think it would have been a different story. You know, but then
just don't think Jumbo was ready to support a full strength Jonas. Like if you saw, like they had some good strong guys, like 100%, like Jorgensen the back end of the week and Wilco, but like I just think like Walt definitely wasn't at his best. Laporte definitely wasn't at his best. Tish Benoot, I don't think was at his best. Like they lost Van Baarle, not having Sepp Kuss there. Like yeah, I think like even if he had a full strength Jonas, like UAE still had the strength in the
numbers
in the team.
Well,
I still feel
they had
versus,
they had like
numbers,
top 4 on GC for a while. So let's leave it there, boys.
Well, hey guys, we have my segment now, which is a bit of Pelo chat. Look, it's not anything revolution. We're just going to carry on from tour wrap-ups. I thought we'd quickly talk about just the UCI's complete non-understanding about this deviation in the sprint. Like, it's going to cause some serious issues going forward with how they have decided to go about this. You know, to shed a little bit of light for people who don't know, but they had disqualified Jasper Philipsen for deviating from his line to close Wout van Aert on the stage. Dylan Groenewegen won. And yes, he did deviate. And it's not the first time Philipsen or a lot of sprinters have deviated in their sprint. But then they sort of set a precedent, because if you look at the day before, the way Cavendish moved through the bunch, no one wanted to say Cavendish shouldn't have got that stage win. But if you actually look at the laws, Cav probably should have been disqualified also. But like the UCI would never do that, and no one wanted to see that happen. And I'm not saying Cav didn't deserve it, but Cav just did what they normally do in sprint. You know, see the wheel, they go left, they go right, they open up the sprint, they open up. But if you see how much he moved in that sprint, it's sort of like, well, is there double standards here? And then we start going back to when Matthews was disqualified in Flanders, which was absolutely ludicrous if you look at how he deviated from his line from the aerial shot. So what's ended up happening now is you're sort of only getting disqualified if someone crashes or there's a previous bad sprint, and then the next time they move, slightly. Philipson, this is not the first time he's moved in a sprint, but they picked today because they were really looking at him. You know what I mean?
So to bring it back to Pelo chat, then what are the riders actually saying about that? Like, are the riders pissed off about it? Because are the riders saying like, what the hell, what about Cav? Because then you almost go like, I don't know why they increased the time limits those days on the time card, but I had the feeling it was like, well, we got to keep Cav in the race.
100%. We called it the Cav, the Cav rule. So within the bunch, everyone's just a bit confused with sort of the double standards of nothing to do with Cavendish. I'm not saying the Cav rule. I was happy about the time cut thing. No worries. The tour is,
yeah, of course.
The tour is actually, to be honest, quite ridiculous with how short the time cut is. Like out of the Giro, the Vuelta, the tour is by far the hardest time cut to make. They're so short. And the way the speed Pogacar's climbing, you really got to be on it. But anyway, in terms of the sprint, what I was bringing up is just no one really knows where they stand. I don't think anyone's pointing the fingers of saying that this guy should have been disqualified or this shouldn't have been disqualified, but they've done a couple of backflips on themselves. They haven't, okay, this is how, if you deviate from your line and then you start your sprint, then you're disqualified. So it's, I think just within the bunch, everyone's a bit sort of like case by case is coming to, oh, this guy should have been going there. This, in the intermediate sprint, where Gourmet deviated from his line, he got, relegated for that. So they're really looking at it and they're really being harsh. But then there's certain times like Cav sprint, everyone's a bit like, well, everyone wanted Cav to win that stage and it's really happy to see him win it. But like, he sort of did deviate from his line, so don't be too double standard, you know what I mean? So it is a...
Yeah, but it would have been a brave com to like you said, it would have been a brave com to rub Cav on that day.
No one wanted to see that happen, but that doesn't mean they're following a set of rules. Does that make sense? Anyway, so that's sort of what the chat was in the bunch, was kind of like, what are the UCI doing in that sense? And the only other one was actually the safety. The safety this year at the tour, we never really spoke about it. So that was a fantastic result. I think this new organisation, SafeR, with like Adam Hansen and things like that, like we really didn't speak about how dangerous finishes were. The sprint finishes were all pretty clean. Yeah, there was moments of obviously normal road furniture danger, but I don't know about you guys, Tom, but we didn't really speak about how unsafe certain things were this year.
No, it was really good. I think I mentioned it before, but I think having a harder stage early on, we talked about Basque Country last year, didn't we? About like sort of takes a lot of that out of it. And that's it's little like different ways of thinking about things that help in a big way. I mean, I thought overall it was a super safe race, really good. But then, on the flip side, I've got to do a race in 2 weeks where they're taking radios out, So it's like, on one hand, it's going the right direction. And then on the other hand, we've got this thing, it's like they're trialing no radios in Burgos and Poland. And like of two races where you've had huge crashes in the past sort of 5 years, they've decided they're going to take radios out or they're going to give radios to two riders, So I feel like they've got a good balance at the tour at the minute, but also I don't think it always goes in the right direction at the moment with that stuff.
I think it's a good time to bring up Nufdick move of the Tour de France. That one rider that did something, or that one thing that you think from the whole tour that stood up to you. We're just going to name it the Nufdick move of the race. Should I kick it off? I think it's just sort of in sort of the same sort of light. I think it was stage 14. And Durbo, you're going to have to shed some light on me on this bit. Michael Matthews goes up the road with Biniam Girmay. They try and get this, come to the intermediate sprint, and Girmay moves across and rubs Matthews, sort of squeezes him on the barriers, and ultimately Girmay gets rubbed for that sprint. And I'm like, yeah, that's sort of fair, how the sprint went. But I'm like, hang on a second. Why is Matthews going for the sprint here? I went, maybe he's actually got some points. I went and looked up. He had 4 points. Why was he getting involved in that sprint, Durbo, to even go to the point where Girmay got rubbed?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I was very, very, very far behind at that point. I had come in and heard that. I had heard what had happened when it came on the bus, but we spoke to Matthews, and from his side of things, he was never coming past Girmay. I think Louis Menches did the lead out, so no offense to Louis, but it probably wasn't going that quick. And then Girmay's opened up, and Matthews said he was just staying in Girmay's wheel and wasn't going to come off him. But Girmay's obviously seen Matthews on the ride and then thinking that Bling's coming past him, so he shut the door. But Bling's like, no, I had no intention of ever taking the points off him. So anyway, I wasn't there by and by, but yeah. If that's your Nufdick moment, that's fine. But I don't have anything else to say. That's what Bling said, and I think he felt personally. Bling felt terrible afterwards that what it had looked like on television, because in his mind he was holding Girmay's wheel. He was just going to do the sprint, and then he wasn't going to take the points off him. So I think there was actually some conversation between Girmay and Matthews afterwards, and they sorted it out. But yeah, Bling felt pretty bad, and I'm glad the green jersey wasn't lost to Jasper Philipsen because of it. But in the end, it all worked out in the end.
Well, so. I've got one on a similar track for my move, Mitch, which is another intermediate. It was a KOM point on I think it was a stage 19. Or maybe 20 when Jorgensen took the 1 point off Richie. So we had it kind of worked out where Richie had a 14-point lead, which meant that if he didn't score and Pog won the stage, and then the KOM in the TT would get 15 points and he would win. So Richie basically needed to score a point. And on the first climb, Jorgensen totally flicked him, like when it was basically everybody in the whole peloton saying, hey, just give Richie he's there, just let him have it. And apparently that was because I think he was annoyed that we had chased the break that he was in to get Richie in it the day before or something. And there's always bits like this that happen in the race, but that one was a little bit like it was deliberate, and it was a kind of a fuck you. So that one was a bit like, I mean, in the end it worked out all right, but if we had lost the Mountains jersey basically because we had done our tactic in the race, that would have been
Turbo, I love the the grudge that you hold, nah mate, stage 2, cut me off the neutral, you're gonna pay for that, buddy. I'm definitely that guy. Turbo, who have you got? Well, you surely got to have a good enough dicker that we wouldn't have even known.
I'm pretty much going to throw the entire Alpecin de Koenig team under the bus here.
Here we go.
So for me, it was a group pedo, probably the hardest day of the tour, Col de Bonnet. We got up to 2,800 metres, and Alpecin are quite bad for riding hard in group pedo. There were certain teams that did it very well. I'd say Lotto Dynasty with Delis Campanars did it fantastically. Like, they would do it to the exact amount of watts you need to ride at, no harder, no easier. And they'd sort of look after it. If we asked to slow down a little bit because Dylan was getting dropped, they'd slow down a little bit. Anyway, group pedal would form. And because, I said how tight the tour time cuts is, Alperson would come to the front, 4 of them, 5 of them, and Van der Poel would be training, which is fine. He's a world champion. He can train. But the problem is they've got 4 or 5 other guys that need to stay with Van der Poel. So then you've got 4 or 5 guys also riding as hard. And you just feel like it was so hard. And at one point, Jasper Philipsen is dropped from Group Pedo. He's alone with Dylan Groenewegen and myself because I dropped back for Dylan. And I'm riding along next to Jasper and we're suffering up the Col de Bonnet. And I look up and he's getting put to the sword by his own team. And I said, what? I sort of said to him, I said, what? Do you know that's your team making the Group Pedo right away? And he goes, oh yeah, my team's always dropping me. I'm like, if that was my team, I would be losing my crap on the radio going, guys, can you slow down? I've just gone out the arse. So you've got the team car having to service like 4 different people because they've got Philipsen looking after him. Then they've got to go up and service Van der Poel and the 4 guys trying to chase him. And I'm thinking, this is a nightmare. Like, I just couldn't believe that their sprinter who's won 3 stages at the Tour de France and they decide to just squeeze on the climb and put him out the arse. I just couldn't understand it. If my sprinter won 1 stage and I waited with him every single day, like if you've got a guy who's won 3 stages for you, you'd surely just wait with him and give him a Coke and get him some fresh waters when he needed it though, wouldn't you? Anyway, massive nuttick moment.
So talking tactics, boys, there's obviously a lot from that tour, even though it looked like, I think the thing that I find really interesting is if you look on paper, it's like, oh yeah, UAE won 6 stages with Pogačar. But there was a lot of moments where it was the other teams that propelled the race forwards and sort of kept the race going for so long that Pogačar couldn't help but win, Because I mean, you put him in front of a mountain stage, he's just going to go and have to do it. But the stage for me that I found so fascinating was actually a flat stage or a flattish stage with a little bit of wind, where basically after I was in front of the race and went and looked at the course, and it's like a kilometer 1.7, you just get hit by an absolute massive side wind. It's also going slightly uphill, and then it's going to go downhill, and it's going to split. And a group split there. Durbo missed it. I
missed every group. I was waiting for my sprinter. I told you that.
I remember this. It was into Mezin, after 30k.
Yates basically ended up from UAE ended up in the split, and so this was like the perfect break. We had 3 in there with Rui Costa. The only teams that have missed it were the sprint teams with Durbo. But Yates' presence in that group that day really changed things, that race. It made Ineos had to chase super hard, Visma had to chase hard, and the sprint teams. I can't remember how long we went for, but I mean, was
it stage 13?
I think it was from I can't remember now.
Agen to Po.
Yes. Yeah. And we had this epic battle, and I was in the second car, and the second cars are just in front, and we're waiting to go in once the break has enough time. But the break never got more than 50 seconds. So the guys were like thirsty as fuck in the group because it was hot. But nobody could help. You couldn't go in and give them a drink. You couldn't stop the cars. And the gap was always just like, they're going to crack soon. It's going to go. And you just had this full on race for the first, like, let's say 2.5 hours. And then in the end, it was a sprint and nobody lost any time. And it was just like this kind of normal day. But it was really interesting because the race is happening at the start in the first 2 hours, like a lot of racing, which I think the organisers want because you've got coverage from start to finish of the race, which is great for them. But I mean, if that day, the day that Richie won, I think it took 110 Ks for the break to go.
That was insane. Yeah, that was insane that day.
There's so much sort of pressure on the teams, and the teams want to win so much that there's never a combination that's just right. You know, it's never like, okay, that one's rolled off and someone goes, we missed it today, lads. Oh, well, you know, tough shit sort of thing. Everyone's got to be, and we did the same thing. We did the same thing on stage. I was saying before, stage 18, I think it was, where Richie was going for the points for the mountains and we'd missed it. And we pulled it like it was a minute gap to 20 riders who were just turning like mad. And it's like, all right, boys, we just have to get within 30 seconds and Rich can go on the climb. I could just imagine everyone in the bunch just like you said, they were just fucking hating us, you know, because it's like, okay.
That day Bissinger did this turn. It was like over the crest of the climb. It was like 60 k's an hour, slight downhill on this highway, just torching himself. Like it was already break had already taken like 70k to go, and I looked up and I just saw Stefan, and he's just doing this like death pull, and we're going into a really hard mountain stage at the end of the stage, so it's always a bit frightening for like a guy 80 kilos plus to just like torch yourself into a mountain. But he poured into it and he did it and he closed it, and Carapaz got in the group. So, yeah, fair play. But, yeah, I can imagine that radio. I just would have been like, if that radio came across like, oh, boys, you're going to have to close this, that radio would have accidentally fallen out. And I would have not. Yeah, no way.
Our team meeting started the next day when Rich had to get into the break. It was like, okay, Richie, we think that your teammates would just highly appreciate it if you could just get into the break today, and we don't have to burn everybody to death.
We had the same thing. It was on the second last mountain stage with you boys, and you guys missed it with Carapaz, and we missed it with Yatesy, and we were just all went to the front and just absolutely torched ourselves into a 22-kilometre mountain. And it was Ben Healy who was on the front, and then it was like Luka Mezjek and then myself. And, oh, man, you get no sit off Ben Healy. And Ben Healy is just doing like 500 watts, and I'm just squealing. I just wanted him to get off the front so I could slow down and rest.
On that stage you're talking about, Southern, that 13, I just remember then, Durbo, you were chasing behind, and then the whole Visma Lisa bike came smashing over the top of you guys after you guys had been doing death pulls. Remember that? Van Aert just came cruising over the top of you and just like, see you boys, thanks for closing that 30 seconds. I'll see you later.
Oh, man, that was a hell of it. Like you said, Tom, it was just, in the end, if you just watched the last hour, you're like, oh, yeah, sprint stage. And then, but you came into the bus and everyone's like, oh, my God, water. I need water. People sitting on the ground, like, absolutely massacred, you know? Yeah, it was a terrible day.
Just quickly, boys, let's just do one favourite moment, top moment from this year's tour. For me, it was after Pogačar went away on the Galibier. It looked like, this is going to be all over. You know, I think it's stage 4 was the Galibier, stage 5. And I thought, yeah, okay, here we go. But for me, it was stage 11 when Vingegaard came back and beat Pogačar in that crazy sprint. Pogačar went away and Vingegaard crawled his way back and then beat him in the sprint. And I hated seeing it because I was going for Pogačar, but I was like, oh, we have got a real race on our hands here. And I got so excited because I was like nervous. I was like, I don't know what is going to happen. And it completely blindsided me. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought Vingegaard was out of it, but suddenly he was back. And I was like, I don't even know what the hell's going on now. So that for me was like a real cool moment because it made the whole tour was so exciting. But if I had to pick one moment, that moment there was just like, everyone was like, well, here we go. We're in a real battle.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was like because he came back from quite a way back, and then you thought, oh, this could tip the balance. So it, reignited the race a fair bit, I reckon.
What about you guys, Southern? One moment from the whole tour.
One moment. I mean, the thing that summed it up for me, or the thing that just blew my mind, was the old no hands up the Planche de Belfi there. Yeah. No, Plateau de Bay. That's the one. Sorry, got it wrong.
Plateau de Bay. Yeah.
Plateau de Bay. It's like, you know, you got Vingegaard going as hard as he can, trying to, you know, win the race, and then Pog's like, oh, I need to cool down a little bit. I'm just going to take my hands off the bars and
screw the top off the lid.
Screw the top off the lid and pour some water on, because now I'm focused on cooling and hydration, because I don't normally pay that enough attention. It's like, man, that was unbelievable.
Durbo, one moment from this year's tour.
Oh, just personally, just Dylan's stage win. Like, I was there, team within the team. Like, I know it's nothing to do, like, as overall, maybe small and compared to, like, the Pogacar moments, but I think it was just because it was 2 years coming. We didn't win a stage last year. Winning the stages at Tour de France is so rare. Had quite a lot to do with it. We've been working together with him for a while. Last year we had like 3 second places maybe, and he's just such a great guy to work for, and such a grateful leader. And for him to get that victory, and he sort of lets us all share in it with him, and I don't know, as you saw, we were losing our shit, so that was pretty special. Yeah, sticks into my mind as probably the highlight of the tour for us.
Well, it broke the dam. It was good to see it. I was right there at the buses. It was cool to see you guys, and there's a very quick wrap of the tour, but we should get into this community quiz. All right, boys, here we go. The community quiz. But look, before we get into this, actually pretty exciting. We have got the 3 writers of Life in the Peloton, the book. It's out there. I don't know where you guys have been. If you don't know about this, Durbo stole my copy from the tour. Did you see my writing? Open the back page, the very back page. Durbo.
It smells sweaty. Why does it smell sweaty?
Have you seen what I wrote in the back? Open it up. Last page.
Last page. Mitch copy.
Yeah, because people were trying to take my book. I'm like, that's my copy. So, Durbo, you have got my copy.
How good is it?
The book is out.
So good.
Tom Southam and I wrote this book over about 4 years, but we
took a while, didn't it?
Tapping into Durbo's thoughts. What do you think about this? He's in the book, but he also wrote the foreword as well. So we've got actually the 3 authors of the book right here.
It's nice to get it out there, man. We had a few copies floating around the tour, didn't we? Which was good. And once you get those things in your hands, it becomes a real thing. And after all that work, it's pretty cool, and it's cool to see. And it was good to start getting it out there, I reckon.
Have you read any of it yet, Durbo?
I had already read it in full online before it went to print. But now with the illustrations, it's definitely inviting. And definitely inviting to read, and I'm just flicking through it, and me and Lara have been going through it. There's some great illustrations here, you know.
The illustrations are so real. I love this one real.
Here, like with the logistics manager, like, hey Isabella, I know it's late, but about that flight to Frankfurt, and she's just got this great logistics manager look about her. She's just like, what the hell do you want? And you just look like so lost. It's fantastic. I'll show you. It's so good. I followed the page there. I was like, I've got to speak about that. It's just great. It's really good.
He's just nailed it. That's Steve, the illustrator. The book, it's been so fun, and it was so fun writing it with you, Tom, because we're just 2 mates sort of, I don't think we really got too cross at each other ever. And Durbo chipping in, having a laugh with him. It was a project of passion, really. I'm only speaking from my side, Southam. I'm not really giving you much choice but to agree with that.
I hated it. Get me out of here, please.
So version 2 is about 4 years away, so hang in for that.
Yeah.
Life outside the Peloton. Should we do this community quiz? Because it's been, yeah, I know. Steve-O. Durbo's holding up a picture of Steve-O.
With the sheriff's hat on.
The sheriff. Yeah, I know. It's fantastic. Let's get into it. This is all Tour de France based. The first question is, there are 7 riders who have won the Giro Tour double. Who are they? Just chime in when you know one.
Indurain.
Pantani.
Okay, that's 1 each.
Merckx.
Oh, there's 8. There's 8 then. Sorry, there's 8. So Pog, yes. That's 2 for Southam.
Merckx must have
Durbo?
done it.
Did you say Merckx?
Yep. 2 for Durbo.
Southam said Merckx.
It's your turn now. It's Southam turn.
Copy must have done it, I reckon.
Southam. 3. Durbo. Mate, you just got to think of big hitters. That's all you got to think about.
I mean, they're quite well known, the guys that won the Giro Tour, you say, Mitch.
Yeah, they've got to be good.
What's his name?
Did
Roche do it?
Wow, my gosh. Well done.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah, he did it once. Well done, Durbo.
Eno?
3 each. Hino 4. Durbo, this is to tie it up. There's only one rider left. He's French.
Anquetil?
Oh my gosh, you've done it. Well done, boys. Well, we're tied.
We nailed that.
We're tied. Okay. From stage 15, in this year's Tour de France, finish up Plateau de Bay, 15.7 kilometres in length, 7.8%. The races finished up there a total number of 7 times, and Tadej Pogačar took the new record time. 4 other riders, Jonas Vingegaard, Remco Evenepoel, Mikel Landa, and Joao Almeida, are all now in the top 10 fastest times up that mountain. Who are the other 5 riders that make up the top 10 times in Plateau de Bay?
Lance Armstrong.
Bam, bow. Back to Southam.
Jürgen Roelands.
Bam, bow.
No,
Back
what was
to
that
Durbo.
guy? The other Belgian guy who won.
Nah, Durbo's turn.
What's his name?
Yeah, Jurgen Rollins is a bit of a big call.
No,
there.
like the Belgian guy. You know the one.
He won up there. He won up there, but he didn't get the top 10 fastest. That's right, Southam. I know why you got confused. No, get off your phone. Southam, off your phone.
There's a text from the cricket team. They need me.
No, I
come. It's just got to think of climbers, Durbo.
I'm thinking. Richard Veron.
Nah, Southam.
This is going to get difficult now. Iban Mayo? No.
Do you need more clues?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you countries. There's a Spanish, Danish, German, and Spanish.
Rasmussen?
Bjorn Rees.
Rasmussen, Southam. Well done. Durbo?
Indurain.
I think you can safely say we're fairly cooked with the post-tour blues for
Jan
this
Ulrich, Alberto Contador, and Soler. Mauricio Soler make up the top 10.
Whoa.
I don't even know which one Plateau de Bay is. They're all just a blur.
Pogačar just absolutely stormed up there. It was ridiculous. All right. 2 questions left. How far in front of the race does the Tour Caravan leave before the official start? Luke Durbridge, this is a question for you.
Not soon enough. No, 3 hours?
Southam, do you want to have a go at that?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Which means that every morning
hours.
when the teams are arriving, because it takes 45 minutes for the actual caravan to get out. It's why we always stop in a traffic jam, Durbs, when we're arriving. Like, just, you know, you get outside the parking.
I know that.
And you're stuck there.
All right.
Oh, it's so annoying.
This is one you can both chime in because Southam's up. So, Durbo, you need this one. If you get this, Durbo, we go to the bonus question. If Southam gets this, the quiz is over. Jonas Abrahamsen from Uno X wore the KOM jersey for 10 days in this year's tour. Among doing many other things, other great performances, breakaways, lead-outs, last year he weighed only 60 kilograms as he was obsessed with powder weight as a junior, and his favourite riders were GC riders who were skinny and he wanted to look like them. He was never really performing, feeling hungry and weak all the time, so he decided to gain some weight and see what happens, which is what we have all witnessed in this year's Tour de France. During this process of self-body torture, he postponed his puberty and essentially started to grow again once he started refueling properly. How much weight did he gain and how much did he grow?
20 kilos.
Correct, part 1.
10 centimeters.
Close. Southam, do you want to have a stab?
I don't actually know, but he actually grew taller.
He grew 6 centimeters because he went through puberty.
Whoa. That is...
I know.
So bad, hey?
That's
It's
insane.
ridiculous, isn't it?
It's insane.
All right, should we just go to this last bonus question?
So he was already a pro pre-puberty.
With
Takes
Uno
some
X.
doing. That takes some doing. Wow.
It's insane. And you know how good he was going. He could do everything in this tour.
Sudden death. Penalty shootout. European Cup final.
All right. Sudden death. What colour is and what is the sponsor of the most aggressive rider's number? Is it A, red and Laughing Cow, B, gold, Century 21, or C, yellow and Haribo? What is the colour and the sponsor of the most aggressive rider's number?
We won this, so give it to Durbs to try.
What is it? Red and Laughing Cow sponsor it.
It's gold and Century 21.
No, Century 21, no?
It's gold.
Yes, it's B and gold, Century 21, boys. Durbo, you were not following the most aggressive rider enough in the bunch.
No, wasn't. I was just following the wheel mostly at the tour this year. So, about it.
Boys, great to catch up with you. I'll let you go and relax. We're all a bit dead. I hope everyone enjoyed this. Love catching up with you, boys. And until next time.
Nice one, fellas.
Thanks,
Adios.
guys.
See you, boys.
Cheers, boys.
See you, boys.
That iconic music in this episode was composed by none other than the legend, Pete Shelley. Cheers, mate.